Good evening to all my listeners. This is your favorite podcast, Will and Al Know Nothing. I am Al, and Will is on sabbatical, so we have two people. Well, one person really filling in because Grace is always here. My lovely wife, Betty. Say hi, Betty.
Hi.
And we have today one of the most important people that I've met in the last 30 years. My coach in real estate, Jackie Lange. Jackie is the owner and operator of a company called Panama Relocation Tours, and I believe soon to be Panama and Mexico Relocation Tours, if I'm not mistaken. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you so much, Al. It's a pleasure to be here and good to see you again.
Pleasure is ours. Would you mind telling our listeners a little bit about what you do, your story, your journey?
So, let me start even way back in 1980, okay? Because I think that it has an important aspect on the rest of my life. So 1980 was when my son was born, and then my daughter was born in 1982. And at the time, I worked as a manager for Southwestern Bell for long distance telephone operators. And I was fortunate that I got a 1-year paid maternity leave when my son was born because I was in management. But at the end of that year, I looked at where I could take my son to daycare centers or having someone come in to take care of moms that took care of other kids. And I said, there's no way I'm going to take my son to any of these places. I just can't do it. So my husband and I did some soul searching, and we did some crunching on our budget, and we made the decision that he would continue working. He was an electronic systems engineer, and I would be a stay-at-home mom, maybe just for 3 or 4 years until our kids got into daycare or preschool or something like that. Well, it ended up being 12 years I was a stay-at-home mom. And yeah, I barely got through high school because I cut high school every day. I was bored to death. They took a whole hour to explain something that should have been done in 5 minutes. So I could make straight A's in the class and take the test and do really good. And I graduated, but I just hated school. So I never went to college. So after not working for 12 years, I was pretty much unemployable. I probably could have got a job flipping hamburgers at McDonald's, or I could have got a job as a Walmart greeter, something like that. But it wasn't going to make enough money to be able to help support our children. So that's whenever I started looking for, well, what can I do so that my life is free when my kids are home from school or when they have summer vacation, I can take the time off. And that led me to the library and doing lots of research and learning about real estate investing. I never wanted to be a real estate agent because I didn't want to put somebody in a car and go show them 12 houses and they say, nope, I don't like any of them. And I just wasted my whole day that I could have been with my family. So instead, I went down the more entrepreneurial path of being an investor. And I started out with I would find old rundown houses and get a contract on it, and I'd sell my contract to somebody that wanted to fix it up. And it was kind of slow starting at first, but then I came up with the brilliant idea that I took my kids every Tuesday from 10 to 2. I would take them to the Mother's Day Out program at the church that I went to. And I knew that and that gave me time to go out and start looking for rundown houses, tall grass, tarp on the roof, things like that. And then I got to thinking, there's all these other moms that they take their kids to the Mother's Day Out program at the church and they don't have anything to do on Tuesday from 10 to 2. So I recruited all the other moms at the church to go out looking for houses too. And I gave them what to do. And I told them I'd pay them, if I could get a contract on that house and sell it, I would give them at least $500, hopefully $1,000, depending on what I could sell it for. So my very first year of being a flipper, flipping contracts, I did 40 houses and made over $100,000. It was pretty amazing considering I hadn't worked in 12 years. And then I started, that I would keep some of them and rehab them and sell some and keep some as rental properties. And then people started asking me, well, how do you do that? How do you find the houses? How do you get such great deals? And so I started doing teaching for real estate investing, and I did that and continued to do that until about 2010, when I just had this one summer in Texas at my lake house in Texas where for 90 days straight, it never got below 100 degrees. It was at 2 o'clock in the morning, it was 105. Daytime temperatures were 115. It was just miserable. And I said, I don't want to live like this anymore. I have cash flow from my rental properties. I could live anywhere in the world, and there's nothing tying me down to this location. So I made the decision I wanted to move someplace where I'd never need an air conditioner or heater again. And that led me to exploring. I visited 10 different countries. I did research on many, many more. But it led me to decide to move to Panama because Panama is a small country, very strong economic outlook for the country, stable, good food supply, and I could live in the mountains where I would never need an air conditioner or heater again. So in 2010, I moved to Panama. And actually, my husband wanted to wait. He was 55 at the time, and he wanted to wait until he turned 65. He said, oh, we can't just retire now this early. You should wait till we're 65. I said, we don't need our Social Security or retirement income. I have enough income from rental properties. Let's go. So I talked him into going. It's a good thing I did because he died about a month after he turned 65. So if we would have waited till he was 65, he couldn't have enjoyed Panama all that time. So anyway, I moved to Panama, and then shortly after I moved to Panama, my real estate investor friends were saying, I've been thinking about moving overseas too. And I'd kept it real quiet, very hush-hush that I was going to move overseas. You've been thinking about moving overseas. But as soon as the word got out, I was getting so many requests from people saying, I'm thinking about moving overseas too. So I did a little tour for 8 real estate investor friends of Panama, and all but 2 of them moved to Panama also. And then other people started asking me about moving to Panama. How do you get a visa? How do you get your dog there? How do you find a rental property? Can you buy a car there? Should I ship my car there? All the normal questions of moving to another country. So quite by accident, I had no plans to do it, but quite by accident, I started Panama Relocation Tours in 2010. And today, just today, we ended tour number 181. So we've done a lot of relocation tours, and we've helped thousands of people move to Panama because it's so easy to get a visa there, especially if you're retired. But even if you're not retired, it's easy to get a visa. Cost of living is so much less. And you can literally pick your ideal temperature based on the elevation, because at the coast in Panama, the temperature is 90 degrees plus or minus 5 every day. And then for every 1,000 foot increase in elevation, the temperature drops 4 degrees. So if you like it in the mid 70s, like I do, well, my house is at 4,600 feet. If you like it cooler, go up a little higher. If you like it a little bit warmer, go down to 2,000 foot elevation. So you can pick your perfect elevation. And people like that there's no more snow, that we don't get snow, we don't get hurricanes, we don't get tsunamis. None of those things happen in Panama because of its geographical location. So Panama is a really great place for people to move to. But as the world has been changing so much recently, especially with the pandemic, it's like one day everything was fine and the next day everything was crazy. With the pandemic, I think people are more and more aware, and I actually wrote an article in 2018, long before the pandemic, suggesting that people should have a plan B and a place that they're going to go to just in case things get really crazy wherever you are. It doesn't have to be that it's 100 degrees weather for 90 days straight, because that's going to change. But what if a war breaks out? What if a pandemic happens? What if there's civil unrest in your country and you don't see any sign that it's going to go away? In those cases, I think it's a good idea for people, instead of just staying where you are and drinking a lot of alcohol and taking a lot of depression medication or anti-anxiety medication, have a plan B. Go ahead and get a residency visa in another country. And then if things get crazy, you have peace of mind of knowing that you already have someplace else to go. And I mentioned earlier, you have house insurance just in case your house burns down so that you don't have a total loss if your house burns down. You have car insurance just in case you get in an accident in your car and it's totaled, so you don't lose all that investment in the car. You have health insurance just in case you have a major medical expense. But you also need to have safety insurance, and safety insurance is having a visa in another country. I see my lighting. I've got light coming in from a window over here. I'm trying to get to a place where it's not so bad. Maybe that's better. There we go. So safety insurance is getting a residency visa in another country. While you're there, it'd be a good idea to go ahead and open up a bank account so that you already have money in another country. It may be in a different currency, might be in US dollars, but go ahead and have money set up in another country. So if you need to go and you need to go quickly, you know that you have a place you can go to. There's already money you can get access to, because what if tomorrow they said nobody can withdraw any money from your bank in the country that you're in, and all ATM machines are going to be turned off? What if that happened? What would you do? But if you could get on a plane and fly to a country where you know you already have a bank account set up, then you have peace of mind. Already determined, Panama is a small country, but already determined what would be your favorite city to go to. And you don't have to have a rental necessarily, but at least know where you're going to go. So I encourage everybody, especially in these crazy times that we're in right now, get that plan B by having a residency in at least one country. And while you're at it, why not two? I have residency in the United States, I have residency in Panama, I have residency in Mexico. So I can always go someplace else. And I'm working on another country.
Are you going to share with us what country that might be?
No, not yet.
Not yet. No,
Not
honestly,
yet.
when you said Mexico, I thought to myself, that's a really good idea, because the Mexican economy is like top 10 in the world, right? Is it top 6?
It's
maybe?
doing very good. The other big plus about Mexico, if you live in the United States, you can drive there.
Yeah.
You can take a foreign plated car into Mexico. It only costs about $300 to get a residency visa for Mexico. It's easy process.
It's easier than
And,
Panama, right?
It's easier. It's actually easier than Panama. Well, not always necessarily, because their financial requirements are much higher in Mexico than they are in Panama.
Okay.
So if you're on a very limited budget, Panama would be a better choice. But if you have a lot of money in savings, or if you have a substantial monthly income from Social Security or other pensions, then Mexico could be a good choice. So you have to find out what the qualifications are for any country that you're going to go to. But the big plus about Mexico is you can get in your car, put your stuff in the car, put your pets in the car, and just drive there. You don't even have to get on an airplane. Now you can drive to Panama too, but it's going to take about a week to get. It's going to take about a week to get there, and people do. People do drive to Panama.
It's not that bad. I mean, so how much do you need? What are the requirements for Mexico, for example, compared to Panama?
Oh, for Mexico, Mexico has a 2-tier visa program. To get permanent residency, where you just apply once and you have it, it's an indefinite visa. Right now, the requirements are that you need about $4,000 a month in income.
Oh, income.
Or $140,000 in a savings account that's been there for at least a year, because you have to show bank statements. Or you can get what's called a temporary residency, which is they grant it to you for 1 year, then you just have to go to immigration to renew it every year. And after 4 years, then you get your permanent residency. And the crazy thing about Mexico is you actually don't apply for residency in Mexico initially. You have to go to a Mexican consulate outside of the country. And every single Mexico consulate has a different formula that they use for qualifying. The most affordable place right now to apply for residency is McAllen, Texas. And you only need like $1,700. So you've got $1,700 a month in income coming in. And that can be from Social Security, pension from a job, employment, rental income, any of those things, or $40,000 in savings that you've had for at least a year. So it's very, very easy. But to get a Mexico visa, whenever you get it initially at the Mexico consulate outside of Mexico, it's only $45 to get that big stamp in your passport. And then within 6 months, you have to come into Mexico and go to their immigration office to finish the process. And that's another $250. So it's only $300 to get residency in Mexico compared to Panama. In Panama, one of the most famous or popular visas to get in Panama is called the pensionado visa. And it's for people that have a pension, that they have Social Security, military retirement, pension from a job. And you only need to show $1,000 a month in lifetime income, plus another $250 for a spouse. So $1,250. So the financial requirements are much less in Panama than they are in Mexico. And it takes about 2 days. So you have to do that in Panama. And it takes about 2 days to get that visa. And the great thing about either one of those visas, either Panama or Mexico, is there's no requirement to live in the country. In Panama, they do say that you have to come back at least every 2 years. Many people come into the airport in the morning and they fly out in that afternoon. They got their stamp on their passport, they were there. In Mexico, there's no requirement to live in the country once you get your visa. So it's a perfect plan B. Either one of those countries is a perfect plan B because it's super easy to get the visa, and you have it as a place to go to just in case things get really crazy where you live. And so what if you lived in Philadelphia? Do you live in Philadelphia? And things got really crazy there, which they do often. Well, you could go down to Florida. You could go down to Florida, but you're still in the United States. And so it's just good to have another place that you're going to go to. And not that you're going to move there permanently right now, but just go ahead and get that plan B in place. Just like you have health insurance, car insurance, health insurance, get safety insurance. It's a safe place to get your family to just in case you need to go.
So I know that you were doing some business in Panama. Was it a coffee business, or what was it again?
Well, I have coffee. I own my property and it's a little coffee farm. So I have that, but I'm not doing that business there. I have bought some houses and fixed them up and sold them in Panama. Once you have that real estate investor blood in you, it just sort of sticks. And wherever you go, you're just always looking for
deals, ways of making money.
For deals is a way.
It's in your blood, huh?
It's in your blood, yeah. And that I didn't want to do it there, but I have this house that just sort of fell in my lap. And there, in the United States, you can put signs up all over the place that says, we buy houses or sell your house fast or things like that. Well, you could do that in Panama too, or you could do some kind of internet marketing, but a lot of people don't even have the internet. So in Panama, the secret is you tell all the taxi drivers, I'm looking for old beat up rundown houses. There's somebody that needs to sell their house next week. And if I buy a house, I'll pay you $500. So you get all the taxi drivers or your bird dogs.
That's a lot of money.
There. Yeah, it's a ton of money for them.
Can you give us an example of like a deal that sticks out to you that you?
So this is one of them that I did was a 2,400 square foot house that was on about an acre of land, and it was 2 blocks to the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
That little rundown that I bought for $55,000 cash. I paid cash. I could have negotiated seller financing, but I just paid cash. It was worth about $185,000. and I spent about $7,000 fixing it up. And and it's always been my philosophy with real estate to never try to sell it for the maximum price. That may take 3 months or 6 months to sell. I'd rather sell it for a little bit less and just be done with it quickly. So I advertised the house. In Panama, they have this great thing that if you buy a house for $125,000 or less, you will never, ever have any property taxes. And property taxes are super low anyway, but it was a great selling point to sell the house for $125,000 and to say, you'll never have any property taxes. So I sold it in 24 hours because of doing that instead of going for the maximum sales price. So I still made a ton of money.
Yeah, and plus you don't need that much money to live there anyway. So
yeah, you don't need that.
Why gouge the people?
Yeah, my house is paid for. I have a lot of light coming in. Let me try to get repositioned here. Hold on.
Well, what's like an average, let's say, electric bill?
Whether you're living,
how much is like an average electric bill? Because like right now, I'm probably paying for my house close to $400 a month. Electric. Yeah, it's like an average
because I live in the Highlands where I don't need an air conditioner. My last electric bill was $17.55. Yeah.
All right. So what about what are your major expenses? I mean, how much food is inexpensive, right?
So my water bill in Panama is $105 a year for unlimited water use.
Got it.
So it's super cheap. Because I have a little farm and I also have a 4,000 square foot greenhouse where I grow a lot of organic food. I have agriculture water. So the $405 is potable water. And that I have 3 houses on my property, my house and 2 other ones. So that serves all 3 houses.
Yeah.
And then I also have agriculture water for the greenhouse and coffee plants and other things. And that's another $100 a year for unlimited use. It's not even, there's no meter. You can use as much as you want to.
It's amazing. And so let's see. So properties probably compared to prices in the United States for the same thing, you would have to go back to like the 1970s or 80s, I would say.
Or 60s, yeah.
Maybe even 60s, depending on where you live, right?
Yeah.
And not even for utility costs. I don't even think utility costs were that low back then, were they?
Yeah, it's I don't remember. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had it that cheap.
What are your major expenses?
I have had one time I did have an electric bill that was like $35. And it was because I was having an addition built onto my house and it took about 3 weeks for them to do that. And they were using a lot of tools and a lot of power tools and stuff. So it did jump my electric bill up to $30, but that's the most it's ever been.
Poor Jackie. Can you give the listeners an idea of like, so if they sign up for a relocation tour of Mexico or of Panama, what that might look like?
So, for our Panama relocation tours, we actually have 3 ways that people can decide to move to Panama. Some people, they want a lot of hand-holding. They don't want to have to do any planning, and they can do our all-inclusive 6-day, 7-night tour, which we pick you up at the airport. We pay for all your hotels, all your meals, transportation, and we take you across the country during that 7 days and show you the most popular places to live at the beach and the mountains. You're going to see some high-end beach areas. You're going to see some places where you can get a 2-bedroom house furnished on the beach, all utilities included for $600 a month. Or you can see one for $2,500 a month. So there's choices in Panama, something to fit every single budget. But also the whole time that the tour is going on, while we're moving from one location to another, it's like a rolling seminar. We're teaching you how to buy a car in Panama, where to go to get health insurance, how to get your dogs and cats there, and just all the things that you need to know to have a smooth move to Panama. So we offer that kind of a tour, but also when Panama in 2020, we also started offering private tours for people that they say, I know I want to live in the mountains. I don't want to be by the beach, or I know I want to live in the beach. I don't want to be in the mountains. So it's a more personalized tour. that's just for 1 or 2 or 3 days. You decide it's just you and your wife or husband and a private tour guide. And they are local experts in that one town. And they're only $250 a day for those. So someone that just wants a private tour of an area to really do a deep dive. It's especially for people with children that want to investigate the international schools in the area, because we'll set up appointments to talk to the administrator. We always show rentals that fit their budget. So we offer the private tours. And then of course, there's people that they're not tour kind of people. They just rather do it on themselves. So we also offer something we call our complete Panama relocation guide, which is all online, and it teaches you all those things you need to know. And it has a whole section on how to do a self-guided tour. So you can come into Panama, we tell you where to rent a car, and you can do your own exploring without somebody else with you. You know, everybody likes to do things a little bit different. We don't try to keep everything in the box. We offer choices.
That's amazing. So typically, what does your day look like living in Panama or Mexico for that matter?
Well, you know, my day, because I still work, I'm doing marketing and stuff for the tours, is a little bit different than it is for other people that would not be working. But, you know, I get up when there's no alarm clock. I get up when I want to get up, and if I say, I don't think I want to work today, then I might go do something else and get involved in one of the activities or art class or one of the plays that's going on. Or
so basically no stress whatsoever.
No stress. So if I wake up and I say, you know, it looks like it's going to rain today, I think I'm going to drive an hour down to the Pacific Ocean, hang out by the beach today, or drive 3 hours and be on the Caribbean Sea instead.
So right before we started filming the podcast and launching the podcast, you mentioned that you'd done a medicine. You've done an ayahuasca trip. Would you mind sharing like what led up to that?
About 15 times, yes.
Oh, really? Oh, excuse
Yes.
me. Maybe just the first or the most impactful one. I don't know.
So the first time, which was the most impactful time, I did ayahuasca because my husband passed away like in 2018, I think was when he died. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and died 30 days later. It was really, really fast. He had a very, very, very painful, excruciatingly painful death. And I was sitting right there watching it the whole time. And so after he passed away, I couldn't get those visions of his death out of my head. I tried drinking a lot. I tried all kinds of things, but it just wouldn't go away. And so it was actually my daughter that said, Mama, you should try ayahuasca. So I did, you know, watched all these YouTube videos about testimonials of ayahuasca and checked out a lot of different places to go to do ayahuasca. So I picked a place in Costa Rica and I went and did ayahuasca. And, you know, I like that, the place I went to, because it's the only medically licensed ayahuasca facility in the whole world. So most of them, you know, you're just out kind of in the jungle with a shaman and in a hut and doing some medicine, but this one was a little bit more 5-star ayahuasca experience, which I needed for my first time because I was scared to death, like so many people are, to take it not knowing what's going to happen. And you always set your intention. So my intention was that I asked the medicine to please take those visions of my husband's death out of my head and out of my heart, because I was just having a hard time moving on. So the medicine, whenever I first did the medicine, I took it and I just wasn't really feeling anything except cold. And it felt like there was something kind of scanning my body. And then they tell you the first time you take the medicine, if you can hear them say, would you like another dose of it? If you hear it, then you should get up and take it. And if you don't hear it, then it means you don't need it. Well, I heard them say it, so I got up to take medicine the second time. And all of a sudden, there was this big voice that said, get back in the bed. You're not ready for that second dose of medicine. I thought, oh, it was the first time the medicine had talked to me. So I got back in bed, and then we started having this conversation. Me and Mother Aya were having a conversation, and I said, once again, please take these visions of my husband's death out of my head. And the medicine told me, well, I'm going to do that for you, but there's a lot of other things that you need to know and that you need to understand before I do that. So I did the medicine for 5 days straight, and it's pretty heavy to do that, but I learned a lot of things during that. The medicine.
By the way, you're super, I already thought you were super badass, and I've been telling my wife about you for years, right?
Yeah.
Who are you going to see in Panama? I'm like,
and I was afraid, and I
her.
was afraid to go. I thought, oh, I'm going to be surrounded by these 18 and 20 and 30-year-old, and here I am, a 60-year-old lady going there. I'm going to be the oldest person there. Surprisingly, there were 70 and 80-year-old people there doing medicine also. Yeah. I wasn't the oldest person. And you got organic food, and every day we had a class about how to get the most out of your ayahuasca experience. So it was really a good experience. But the medicine told me, showed me things that had happened in my husband's life that I never knew about, that kind of explained who he was, why he was the way he was. The medicine told me things that I needed to do to rearrange my company to make it more efficient, and software that I needed to get to help it be more efficient, things I'd never heard of before. The medicine told me conversations that I needed to have with my son, that he needed to hear from me, that I was thinking, but I hadn't verbalized, but the medicine told me what I needed to say. One of the most shocking things that happened, by the way, it did take the visions away, and I'll tell you how it did that with some sacred surgery that I had during my ayahuasca experience.
Wow.
Yes. But the medicine also told me that there was a lady that lived in my town, and I didn't really know her at all. And it said I needed to pay for her to go to this facility and do ayahuasca, because if she doesn't do it, she'll be dead in 3 months. She's going to kill herself.
Wow. That's
a pretty heavy trip to put on somebody. And so I paid for this lady to go. The medicine, I could afford it. I paid for her to go. And when I got back to Panama, I contacted the lady, and I didn't tell her that the medicine told me she was going to kill herself. I just said, the medicine told me I needed to pay for you to go. Here's a gift certificate for you to go. And she said, there's no way. I'm not going to do that plant medicine. I don't do drugs. I said, this is different. It's not a drug. This is an ancient medicine that is going to help heal you, whatever might be going on in your life, and give you good direction. So she didn't want to go. And this was in December. And then in January, she contacts me and she said, can you tell me again about the medicine? And so we met, and I told her this time that the medicine told me that she was going to commit suicide. And this lady had a 16-year-old son. I just couldn't let it happen. And so she starts crying, and she showed me she had tried to commit suicide.
Wow.
the week before. And I knew about it a month and a half before it was going to happen, because the medicine told me.
How do you explain that? There's a lot of my listeners that have a lot of judgment around.
Yeah.
And coming from you, you're a very together person. No one would look at you and go, oh, she's a hippie. Of course she did that.
Well, I'm not a hippie, and I never was. It's just sometimes you get to a point in your life where you just say something's got to change.
Yeah.
Something has to change, and that something's got to change could be the plan B of just moving to a different country.
Yeah.
And that could be the change that you need in your life, but sometimes that change has to come from within, and you don't know how to get to that deep, deep, deep place in your heart and in your head. And you can't get there on your own. The only way to get there is with plant medicine.
Yeah.
And it shows you things about yourself that you didn't even know, about your parents, about your children, about people around you, about just things that are hidden around the corner that you didn't even know it was there, and the medicine reveals it.
Yeah. I mean, the last couple of months for me and my family have been very, very transformative. I don't know
Mhm.
if Betty would be open to sharing a little bit about her experience with the medicine. Would you?
Yeah, so
Oh, oh,
no, I'll tell you. So and
Not
there's
Jackie today.
sometimes you have to, the old you has to die for the
yeah.
new you to be reborn, and that
Oh,
happened
totally.
to me. That happened to me whenever I did the medicine. The one of the things I really like about where I went is not only did we have 4 shamans, but we had 15 helpers. And
Oh,
so, and they all do the medicine also.
yeah, they
Because
microdose it,
the
right?
medicine tells them, they don't do microdosing, they
No?
do the full shebang.
Oh, wow.
So the medicine tells them, you need to go help Al. He's having a hard time, because maybe you've got a blanket over your head and they don't know you're having a hard time, but the medicine tells the shaman where they need to go to assist people. And that's what they did. I was having a really hard time, and I had like 4 shaman came over, and they were, doing the feathers and blowing the smoke on me, and
Yeah.
doing the chants and the things that I needed to get past that hurdle that I was having to get there.
I think that what you're doing and some other people that are doing what you're doing in terms of relocation tours and reorienting people out of United States, Canada, and some parts of Europe, I think goes sort of hand in hand and dovetails with plant medicine, with entheogens, with disconnecting from the grid, disconnecting from the system.
And disconnecting from the stress.
Disconnecting from the stress. Like, why?
Disconnecting from the stress, because it's not, it's not going to, unless you physically remove yourself from the situation. It's just like if you were in an abusive relationship with someone and they beat you up every day, unless you physically remove yourself from that situation, it's not going to stop.
Yeah.
The domestic violence is going to continue unless you're in a situation, and maybe you have a spouse that's an alcoholic and they say, oh, I'm not going to drink anymore. Then all of a sudden they're drinking again. And then they are verbally or physically or mentally abusive to you. Unless you get out of that situation, it's not going to go away. But then even when you get out of that situation, sometimes there's just this deep down anger. Like when I left the United States, it kind of felt like getting a divorce, because it was the only thing I'd ever known.
Yeah.
I'd lived in Germany, I'd lived in Puerto Rico, so I'd lived in other countries, but those were all temporary situations. But the United States was my home. I was born there. It was my identity. So you lose a little bit of identity whenever you move to another country, but then you realize, oh, there's all these other people that are from that country that are living here too. And they've also had the Great Awakening, that there's a better life. There's a much better life in another place. And sometimes to get over all the different little things that have piled up in your life, ayahuasca is the only solution. It's not drinking alcohol. It's not smoking pot. It's not taking depression medicine or anti-anxiety medicine. Those things are just a Band-Aid. But to really get to the root cause of the problem and to solve it so you can move on and not need external medications, ayahuasca or some of the other plant medicines are absolutely the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. What was it like when you
get
first
through it? You have a different life. You have a different perspective. You see the world in a different way.
Yeah, we all know that. You're preaching to the converted.
Yeah.
So when you first moved there, what was it like for you at first? Like, what was the transition like?
So, when I first got there, there was just this thing deep down inside of me that I felt like this was where I was supposed to be all along. And it's hard to explain whenever you go to a place that you've never been to, but you feel like you should have been there all along. And that's just the way I felt.
Like a deja vu.
It was like a deja vu, or maybe another life. I don't know. But it was just like, this is where I was supposed to be. So if your stress level's 10 and then all of a sudden it goes down to 0, it's because that's where you're supposed to be. So everybody, Yeah, so it just felt like that's where I was supposed to be. So, and of course, being in a new country, in a new city, oh, there's all these new restaurants to check out. And every chance I got, I would just see a road and say, oh, let's see what's down that road and go check it out. And sometimes there was nothing. It was a dead end road or just a cow pasture, but it's like you're a kid again. That you just want to explore everything all around you. That's a whole new life that you want to explore all around you instead of everything being the same old every day, which gets old.
Well, your family came over on the Mayflower or something, you shared with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you know, you've been there.
Yeah.
You've been there long.
And,
You were in the
you
United
know,
States
and
long
it's
enough.
especially great whenever, like, you know, when my husband passed away, we'd been married 45 years. So we've been together a really long time.
No.
And for us to be able to both be like kids in a candy store in this whole new country and to explore all new things again, it just revives your relationship also, because everything can get kind of stale. If you just do the same thing every day, the same routine every day, and all of a sudden you have a whole new routine and you have a whole new list of, well, these are the things I could possibly do today. And there's so many new things you can do today that you have to pick and choose which one you want to do or nothing. Sometimes it's good to just sit on the porch and drink some coffee and just listen to the birds and look at the beautiful scenery and just take it all in.
I think on some level, Americans are addicted to their own stress.
And the news. Yeah.
And well, that causes their stress.
That causes their stress. Yeah, well, it's because they don't know that there's an alternative. You know, Seth Godin had a great saying. He's a marketing expert, writes a lot of books about marketing. And he says that you need to create a life, instead of looking forward to your next vacation, create a life that you don't need to escape from. And so many people look forward to their next vacation so they can escape that life that they're miserable in. But that's the wrong attitude. You know, 1 week or 2 week vacation, that's not enough. You have to create a different life, perhaps in a different place, perhaps with a different person. But you have to create a life that you don't feel like you need to escape from.
Makes a lot of sense. I was listening to a rabbi yesterday. He said the difference between Christians and us is Christians wait to die to go to heaven. Jews, we try to pull heaven down to us. I thought that was interesting.
And I think that some Christians are that way. Other Christians, they just, once you've done the medicine, it's different.
Yeah, totally.
Once you've done the, heaven's with you every day. Once you've done the medicine.
Or hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you make your own heaven or you make your own hell.
Yeah, well, if you go in with the right intentions, then it doesn't. But, you know, I've seen miracles with the medicine, you know, people that had PTSD and it's gone in a couple of days, and people that were addicted to cocaine and it's gone in a couple of days, and people that, like me, like the visions of my husband's death, or people that are at a crossroad in their life and they don't know which way to go. You know, and the decision's going to completely change their life. But when you get to that crossroad and you don't know where to go, and so you just stay where you are. So many people just stay stuck because they don't know what to do. But the medicine can give you the direction of, oh, well, you need to go to the left, or you need to go to the right, or you need to change these things up. So it's like having a conversation with God. It definitely is the closest that you'll ever feel to getting the directions that you need.
Well, you're definitely in communication with some kind of consciousness, whether it's your higher self, God, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but it's
Mother
a teacher.
Mother ayahuasca.
Yeah. Well, I did ayahuasca like 20 years ago, and for whatever reason, it did nothing. I took 2 whole doses and didn't feel anything. But then recently I did toad venom medicine, like from Mexico. And that was a very different experience. That hit me right away. And My ancestors came down. They were not happy with me. They were not happy with the way I was living. They were not happy with my attitude. And they gave me a big attitude adjustment. And I fought it in the beginning, which I found out that you can't box with God. But towards the end, I really experienced unconditional love. And I realized that it was something that I'd been looking for my whole life, that I thought I'd gotten from my mother, that I thought I'd gotten from my grandparents, or even my wife or my children. And I realized that because we live in our bodies, that the love that we get is conditional, whether giving or receiving. And once I experienced the unconditional love, everything was okay. I just surrendered. And it was a very powerful experience. And I also realized that I'd been being super unfair to others because I expected some of these people to love me unconditionally. And it wasn't their fault that they couldn't love me unconditional because they live in these bodies. And I was able to let that go, and not worry about that so much, but worry about, giving of myself. And that's part of the reason that I started this podcast, because, I really want to thank you and acknowledge you for always taking the time to be there for me. When I was going through rough times, you were always someone that would listen to me, encourage me, talk to me, and have compassion for me. So I really want to acknowledge you, especially in front of my wife, and let you know that, that meant a lot to me, and it continues to mean a lot to me.
You're welcome. That's my passion, is helping other people see the potential in themselves that maybe they don't see, because it's there, and you just have to give them a little push. Sometimes give them a little nudge, and also don't you just give people suggestions on doing things different, like having that plan B, which I think right now is just, things are so crazy in the world. I think it's so urgently important to establish at least one, if not two, plan Bs.
So if you wouldn't mind sharing, not that but it's a conversation around speculation. If you were going to speculate what direction the United States, Europe, and Canada are going in, what would you share with our listeners?
Yeah, it just seems like there is this other force, the Great Reset or World Economic Forum, or just some evil force that has a dark cloud over many parts of the world right now, that has not good intentions for the country. And we can hope that it's going to get better. Everybody thinks, oh, well, the next election, it's going to be better. And then it's not. And the next election, it's going to be better. And then it's not, because that's just one person. It's a whole other power that is controlling things right now. And it just, the medicines told me a long time ago that it's just not going to get better in some countries. There are already food shortages in some places. Farmers are not being allowed to grow whatever they want to grow, however they want to grow it. Fertilizer shortages.
Because of the war, right?
Yeah, big. But they say it's because of the war, but is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. It's an easy explanation, but the supply chain problems, giving things moved from one location to another. It wasn't a problem. It didn't used to be a problem until the pandemic, and then now all of a sudden it's a problem. And then, we're seeing so many people are dying. They got vaccinated early. Just yesterday, I got a WhatsApp from the lady that I bought my house from, a Panamanian lady, that her 32-year-old son went to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, had a heart attack at noon, and died. And so it just seems like everything's happening a little bit faster, which means that everybody should have more urgency in creating that plan B, because we don't know what else is planned. If anything is planned, we don't know what else is going to happen. We don't know And look for that place where when you get there, like I visited a lot of different countries. I visited Mexico and initially marked that off my list of a place to relocate to. I visited Costa Rica, Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador. I visited a lot of different places, but I picked Panama because Panama is a small country with only 4.5 million people, so it's not a great big country. Because they're economically stable because of the income that they have, not just from the Panama Canal, but also that's only about 20% of their income sources, 15 to 20%. A lot of people think that's how they make all their money. They also have the largest ship registry in the world, the second largest free trade zone in the world. They have money coming in from billions of corporations that have been established in Mexico, plus the exports that they have of pineapples and bananas. The largest copper mine in the world is in Panama. So I picked Panama because of its economic stability. And that's why I picked Panama.
I'm looking at my wife's face and she's like this.
You need to come see it, Betty.
Look, both of you will fit right in. Am I wrong?
Yeah. You need to come. Yes, you would. You need to come check it out. And perhaps like me, you're going to get there and say, you know, this just feels right. There's something about it.
My blood is like,
feels right.
I could resonate. I can totally get it.
Yeah. Well, and also, you know, when I lived in Texas, I had a house in Dallas and I hated Dallas, you know, all the traffic and the noise and, you know, you didn't even want to watch the news because so-and-so, you know, there were 3 shootings last night and bank robbery this. And it just seemed like the moral values were going downhill in a lot of people. And it just wasn't good for my psyche to be surrounded.
I get phone calls every day from friends and from family of friends, men my age, worried about that they're having alcohol problems, marijuana problems, meth problems, anger issues, mental illness.
Fentanyl stuff, I've heard it's really
Philadelphia is the #1 place for fentanyl in the country.
Yeah. And
I mean, our brothers and sisters are living on the streets.
But you know, there's a way to get off of all of that. And it's, you have to go to a place where it's tranquilo. You just have to go to a place where you're not surrounded by all that stress.
Betty's on the internet right now checking for flights. All right, awesome. So where can our listeners find you?
So you can find me on our website at PanamaRelocationTours.com. Okay. But even more importantly is I would suggest you go to our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Because on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panama Relocation Tours, I have 200 videos where we've interviewed people that got off the merry-go-round. They moved to Panama and they talk about how much their life has changed by moving to Panama. You know, and even miracles. There's one lady that she was blind. They told her within another year she wouldn't be able to see at all. And she got with a shaman in Panama and now she sees just fine. But you need to watch some of the YouTube videos, and we have drone shots of the town so you can see what different parts of Panama, what's Bocas del Toro like, what's Panama City like, what's it like in Chitre, or Boquete where I live, or Bocan.
Boquete is all flowers, basically. It's like a big flowering
trees and mountains. Yeah, it's green all the time, flowers all the time. And the weather's perfect, except when
you decided to set 55.
Well, it's in the mid-70s, 75 to 80.
Yeah, it's perfect weather every day.
No, I said when you were 55, you decided.
Yes.
Why wait 10 years?
I'm 68. I'm 68 now. And
so yeah, I'm 55. So guess what, hon?
It's time.
All right.
But you know, just go.
Time.
And you know, you don't want to just say, okay, I'm going to go to Panama and get a visa. You need to do some, I would say go on a scouting trip first and see if it feels right, because it's hard to explain. You just get a feel for this is the right place. but you need to be, but yeah, I was 55 when I made the big change 13 years ago. You know, and what's so crazy is I look at my passport photo from 13 years ago, and I look,
You look older then.
I look 10 years younger
Yeah,
now than I
She
did
does.
13 years ago.
And I
How
remember when I
crazy
saw
is
you,
that?
you lost 60 pounds, right?
Maybe a little bit because of Panama and a little bit because of the medicine, but it changes you. I have no health problems. I take no medication. I don't need any of that stuff because I'm living in a place where, you know, you're not going to have stress.
Yeah. One of the things though that you shared with me that when your husband was alive, the two of you paid $900 a year for tier 1 health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? And it was through Johns Hopkins University.
Well, there's all kinds of different health insurance that's available. If you want to get insurance that's just for Panama, if you're between 60 and 69 years old, it's $102 a month. And that's it. You're covered anywhere in Panama. You can also, that's for they have private hospitals and public hospitals. That's for using the private hospitals. You can also go to any public hospital and there's no monthly fee for that. You pay nothing. You pay $2 to see a doctor. If you need to see a specialist like an ophthalmologist or oncologist or cardiologist, it's $5 to see them, but no monthly fee. So I have several videos. I just did one last month where I interviewed a couple. They came on our tour and they moved to Panama, and their son, I think he's 12. He had an accident at the gym and he cut his chin. And so they went to the emergency room and they stitched it up. It was $2 for that.
Oh my God.
Then they did some at the emergency room, $2. And they did some x-rays and they discovered he broke his jaw in 3 places.
Wow.
So he went to there's a special children's hospital that he went to, and they got the best orthopedic doctor to come in to fix his jaw. So his total cost for having his jaw broken in 3 places, the surgeries, the x-rays, the CAT scans, 10 days in the hospital and everything was $350 with no insurance. No insurance. So you don't have to get insurance in Panama. You can just use the regular healthcare system, which is excellent. And
that just goes to show you how much we're getting ripped off in our country.
It shows you how much you're getting totally ripped off. You know, if I have insurance, but I rarely use it. If I need to go to the doctor, just go to the doctor's office, it's $15. I'm not going to whip out my insurance card for a $15 doctor fee. It's, you know, don't want them to have, it's not worth the time to file the paperwork. I just pay the $15 if I need to go. So just in July, I started having this really bad pain in my foot. It felt like I'd stepped on some glass, but I couldn't remember that I'd stepped on any glass, but it just felt like I'd stepped on some glass. And I couldn't find a puncture wound, couldn't find anything. So I went to Dr. Gomez in Boquete and he examined it and he said that he thought I had a bone spur. What the heck is that? So I'm Googling what's a bone spur, and it was $15 for my doctor visit. He sent me to get x-rays done, 4 x-rays on my foot. It was $30 without using my insurance card to get the very best equipment, x-rays, and then it was the bone spur. So he gave me, that he had in his office, an anti-inflammation medicine to take for 3 days, and then it was gone. It was all fixed. So yes, you can pay for insurance, but
$10,000.
so many people in Panama do what we call self-insure. And instead of paying that insurance premium, they just put an extra $100 or $200 into a special savings account to set aside in case they do have a medical emergency. My neighbor had a heart attack a couple of years ago, and he didn't have insurance. He went to the public hospital. They had to put a stent in, you know, CAT scans, MRIs, best cardiologist. It was $895. So, and just imagine, that would have been $500,000 probably.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah, easily in the United States. So you have to have insurance in the US, but in Mexico, in Panama, and other places, not only are the doctors amazing, they're so good, they're so knowledgeable, and they really explain things to you very, very well. but the equipment is top notch and it's affordable. So you might be wondering, why is it so cheap in Panama compared to other places? It's affordable because it's priced based on what the average Panamanian can pay. So they don't have one price for expats and one price for Panamanians. It's affordable for everybody. And that's their big push for Panama, is they want high quality medical care to be readily available for anybody, whether you can pay for it or not. You're going to get medical care. It's a whole new, an amazing concept, huh?
Yeah, affordability.
Yeah.
Who knew,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
small government, all the things that the
Yeah.
libertarians here want, and
Yeah.
all the things also that a lot of people want. They're just what they're failing to see is that they're living inside of a giant corporation called the United States of America. They still think it's an actual government that people care. It's not. It's just something meant to extract your money, extract your time, your energy, and your attention, your consciousness. And it's just a place where people come and make money.
Well, and
That's all that's left.
I lived in the Washington, D.C. area for a while. So in the 1980s, so I got to see it up firsthand. And there's just the majority of people that live in the Washington, D.C. area are lobbyists. That are for the pharmaceutical company, or they're for the logging company, or they're for the beef company, or they're for the dairy company, or the egg company. And their whole job is to convince the people that are supposed to be your representatives to vote in a way that's going to benefit their business. Yet we elected those people to be in office to do the things that are best for their constituents. And there's a disconnect, definitely a disconnect, because maybe you wonder why some people go to Congress and they had $150,000 in savings, and 4 years later they've got $10 million or $5
$10 million. Try 100 million.
Yeah, 100 or
10
whatever.
million. Those are the poor ones.
Whatever it is, and maybe a couple of free houses in different places.
Yeah, of course.
With
bank accounts.
Yeah, the system's broken. The system's broken.
Sure.
And at least whenever you're in a different country, you can disconnect, not only from that system that's broken, but even that system's going to exist to some extent in other countries as well. But when the price is really low and for the whole country on electric cost, living cost, healthcare cost, food cost, you don't care what the government's doing because your prices are so low.
Right.
You can live a really quality life and just turn the TV off.
Exactly. Exactly.
Turn the TV off and live your life in peace and quiet.
Jackie, you're awesome. I love you very much. Hopefully we'll all be seeing you very, very soon, either in Mexico or Panama. Definitely not here. Jackie, I got to wrap this up. You're awesome.